If you were a trainer, which trainer or style of trainer would you try to model yourself after?
Oh, definitely my dad, I'm gonna have to say. But I don't know. It's tough. That's a tough question. Ron Burke, I don't know how he does it, or anybody for that matter that has those kind of or that many horses, especially that caliber. You know, they must just all day entering horses and stuff like that. Like, definitely give him props, or anybody with a big stable, I guess. It's tough to say which one for sure, but definitely my dad up there for sure.
Oh, I don't know. My father, I guess, Ross. That's who I would say I'm most the same as.
I'd just take Ross Henry and take some colts and train some colts down.
First of all, my father, that's for sure. Just because I like the way he does things, and I don't know. After that, I'm really not sure. I never, as a kid, never really worked for anybody else for a long period of time. So, yeah, I'd go with him.
Well, that's a good question, because the thing is, a lot of the times it's tough to answer that question because you're not around a lot of the trainers when they're training at home. Like, my dad really is what he's taught me. Our ideology of racing and how we're supposed to train, and we're kind of more a laid back, we don't try to rush the horses into it. We're patient, and I think mostly our niche is training younger horses and getting them ready for the races. So I'm gonna say that because you're not around a lot of other trainers, so obviously it's a biased thing, but I guess you're gonna say your dad.
Probably my brother, he's been around forever, and he keeps his horses racing all year round, and keeps his horses sound and healthy, and the stats are there.
I like Tony O'Sullivan. His horses always look good. Everyone's there. They work hard. They enjoy their job, and his horses are always. He always cares about the horse first. So I like Tony O.
Roger Mayette, and back in the day, probably people like Doug Arthur, Garth Gordon. They were great trainers, in my opinion.
First couple names that comes to mind is, I'll go with the Kenyan people like Jeff Gillis, always super good. Obviously Casey Coleman, they're young and they're super good,
Well, Casey does pretty good, but I'm more of a driver trainer myself, so anyone that's got big success to drive and training, really, like Rick Ziron, he does really well as a driver and a trainer.
I'd go with Bob McIntosh.
I've always been a fan of Bob McIntosh. He does great with young horses. He takes his time, he puts the foundation in them, and I'm a big believer in how way he does it.
Well, I guess I'd like to be Bob McIntosh. He has a lot of success. It's hard to knock that. He does good with young horses. I like young horses, so I'd like to maybe train babies and stuff. That'd be what I'd want to do.
Robert McIntosh. Well, he's one of the greats naturally. So, and he's got, and I love the way his style of training is.
I'm learning a lot from the Europeans lately. I like their style of not training down the babies so fast. Instead, teaching them really good manners, and instead of speed is repetition, repetition, repetition. Do it right over and over and over again, and then come May and June, then you can go faster. I believe I spent a lot of times in the States, and I spent some time here. It would have to be either under the French people or the Scandinavian. I think they have very good techniques.
Chuck Sylvester, because he's always got good horses, and from what I've seen, he just does an excellent job with them. So him.
Most Grand Circuit trainers are professionals, so any one of them. I mean, my favorite trainer is the one I win with the last horse with, so I don't care.
If you were unable to train a horse you owned for a major stakes race, who would you transfer your horse to?
I think I'd have to go with Bob McIntosh. I think he's probably the most proven, definitely in Canada, and he's won just about every race there is. And for me to send one to him, it would be an honor just to have him train one for me, and he'd be my first choice for sure.
Well, in Ontario here, a guy that I have a lot of faith in is Tony O'Sullivan. I'm friends with him for starters, and we have a good relationship, but I think he's very professional, and and I appreciate that, especially when it's trainer to trainer. So Tony would be a guy that I would have no trouble sending horses to.
Probably Jack Darling.
Well, I'd have to think I couldn't go wrong if I gave it to Casey Coleman. I mean, she's had a history of producing, and I've had some luck sending horses to her, and yeah, I think she would be my choice.
Well, Jim, my son, of course, is actually the trainer, but if we weren't in the training, didn't have the facilities right here in Ontario, Ben Wallace would be the top of my list.
Probably Mark Harder.
Down in the States, I've used Mark Harder before, and Josh Green I've used down there before too. Probably one of them down there if I had to go down to the States, because I don't usually go down.
A guy named Frank Mosley. He works for us in Chicago, and you're not going to find a better guy, and he knows how to take care of a horse.
I like Jim Doherty. He's a good friend of mine, and he used to send me some nice horses. Yeah, Jim Doherty.
My son. And then I tell him what to do.
If you couldn't